Hi, everyone. I'm Joel. I'm a high school teacher in southwestern Sydney, and Andrew invited me here to share a story of some local action and local organising that we did at our school around meeting times. So, um, obviously, when we had the mass meeting to vote for our new award agreement, and there was the clause about limiting meeting times to 1 hour, maximum 1 hour outside of school time. Lots of people at school were very excited about that because we had been having a 2 hour meeting once a fortnight as a whole staff, or a SEP team meeting. And the other week was a 1 hour faculty meeting. But on the 2 hour meeting day, the students went home early. So that meeting started at 2 o'clock and finished at 4 o'clock. So people were very excited coming away from that meeting, but when we voted on the award, at the prospect of that meeting changing to a 1 hour meeting. Because as you can imagine, and I'm sure as most people's experience, those 2 hours were not filled with particularly inspiring or useful things that we felt like we needed to be there for. And at first, the school leadership seemed like they were going to be on board, and that they understood, under the terms of the new award, that meeting would have to change to 1 hour. But then, some whispers and rumors and things started going around that, it actually means from the end of the normal school day, blah, blah, blah. No, there's no classes timetabled, but there is still casual teacher supervision for students while the meeting's on, all this kind of stuff. So they backtracked away from the initial agreement that we had to cut that meeting time down. So as a result, start of this year, we're still having that 2 hour meeting. And for the whole first term, we still had that 2 hour meeting. As the Federation rep at the school, I have regular meetings with the principal where I tried to make the case that the wording in the joint FAQs was very clear, and that we needed to change those meeting times, but wasn't able to achieve a resolution that way. So we started to think about, as a workplace committee, and with the support of our organizer, what we would do and how we would go about, getting that change happening for our members at our school. So the result of that ended up being Andrew, our organizer, came out and met with our workplace committee, and we had a little workshop session where we looked at our membership list, we looked at the different faculties of the school, looked at where we were strong, looked at where we had maybe some weaknesses, and we came up with a plan to build towards having a meeting where we would move a motion basically outlining to the leadership of our school what our expectations were and what we would do if those expectations weren't met. So one of the things that was kind of complicating things a little bit was our school leadership had some emails back and forth with some people in the department telling them that their interpretation was correct and that what they were doing was fine. So that made the negotiations a little bit more challenging, a little bit more difficult. But, we maintained that the wording in the FAQ was the only official thing that was out there, and that was what we should follow. So after we had our meeting with our organizer, we went about going out and organising the school. So we divided up the faculties between different members of the workplace committee. We identified people within each faculty who were, strong, reliable members that we could talk to first and sort of disseminate things through them as well. So we're fortunate, I guess, in the fact that it was the meetings were very unpopular across the staff. So it was an easy issue to get people on board with. So we ended up calling our meeting in the last week of the term, and we had 50-something members at the meeting there. So it was extremely well attended. We have on the site, we have the high school and the IEC. So we had, the staff from the high school, the staff from the IEC, and we had people from our workplace committee and their workplace committee lined up as movers, as seconders and things like that. We'd also done some work around anticipating what some of the objections and arguments against might be, when we had people who were lined up ready to speak in favour during debate if anything had come up from the floor from senior executives or anything like that. So we were very confident going into the meeting that we were going to get the result that we wanted. And ultimately what we ended up doing was moving 2 motions, one directly to the school leadership, calling on them to change the meeting times, and one which we sent to our local association to go to executive, to call on the Federation executive to chase up with the department why people in directors' offices and things like that were giving out misleading and contradicting advice. Meeting went relatively smoothly, with the exception of one member of the senior executive who took it very personally what we were doing, but the support in the room was undeniable, and both promotions were passed very easily. And that was it. We went home for the term and went, all right, good job. We'll see how this goes when we land back next term. When we got back to school next term, principal grabs me, says, oh, we're going to be changing the meeting times. They're only going to be an hour on those weeks. And, I'll announce it to the staff during the staff development day. So it was a really positive and successful experience for people, I think. In a lot of ways, I think it was a bit of a own goal from our school leadership, because if they would have just agreed with us in the first place, they could have kind of gotten up and sold that as them, doing something for us or whatever along those lines. But it gave us instead an opportunity to do something together, to galvanize the staff, to get people involved, get people to win. We are historically a very, very strong Federation school, both in terms of density and in terms of participation. But we have had very, very, very high staff turnover over the past 7-ish years. So it was good. We got a lot of new people involved, people who, hadn't been around for previous things that we'd done or weren't members of the school, when we were doing the strikes or any of that kind of action. So it was a really, really positive and a real demonstration, I think, to the members at the school of what you can do when you work collectively, or when you, when you are organized and operate together. That's my story.